Indeed, we're live from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, the Presidential Pavilion, where the arrival of the body of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is expected. What you can just see behind me is the casket carrier by the Kenya Defence Forces getting prepared, because you remember yesterday President William Ruto announced, other than the 7 days of national mourning, there will be what you call the attendant rites of a state funeral that is going to be conducted, and therefore what you see there is the Kenya Defence Forces getting ready and preparing that casket carrier that will move from here all the way to the Lee Funeral Home, and later in the afternoon take the casket for public viewing, or take the body of the Right Honourable Raila Odinga for public viewing to Parliament buildings. The arrival of the supporters of Raila Odinga really started very early, but of course some of it has been inhibited by what you would call the rigors of accessing the airport. But you see already some of them started milling here so early in the morning. But again, a very decent crowd in terms of even how they're carrying themselves. You remember yesterday there was an appeal by the co-chair of the funeral committee, that is the Honourable Oburu Odinga, for people to allow for a dignified burial of the Right Honourable Raila Odinga. I'm sure from this other side, the camera would actually obviously struggle, but from where we're sitting, we're at a vantage position where we can see the preparations inside the presidential pavilion and the laying of a carpet, and of course the KDF band still belting tunes right inside the airport, and the preparation there. The casket has already made its way inside. I mean, the hearse has already made its way inside the airport, and that means it is the hearse that will actually move the body from the point where the plane will land, and then that will also, from that point, then the KDF casket carrier will also be able to take up the job from there. Indeed, the nation is united in a very solemn ceremony of bidding goodbye to the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, who served in the government from 2008 to around 2013 as the Prime Minister of the Republic, and then under the reign of President Mwai Kibaki. Over time, time has proven, or has bailed him out, as one of the most consequential politicians of our time, one of the most consequential figures in Africa, as well as inside the boundaries of the Republic of Kenya. Being a state ceremony, everything will be driven by the Kenya Defence Forces. The articulacy, of course, the conciseness and preciseness of the event will be totally executed. And this time, you will be right if you use the word military execution is what will happen. We have a very short program, obviously owing to the fact and the wishes of the Honourable Raila Odinga to be buried within 72 hours after his death, and that tells you the kind of rush that is in the entire program. But still, being a state funeral, you expect it to be executed perfectly as it would a military execution in the execution of it. There's a section of mourners here who have started wailing, and I think what they're asking for is access to the airport. But then we will see by then if that will be possible. And so the casket carrier, the KDF casket carrier, makes its way to the pavilion. It is accessing the pavilion. We're really hoping that we'll also get some access to the pavilion, but this is it, even as his supporters continue to mill around the main gate of the presidential pavilion. We are expecting President William Ruto, who will be making his way here shortly, and of course other leaders. At about now, we are also expecting a presser by the Orange Democratic Movement Party. They have said they have a major announcement to make before they join President William Ruto in receiving the remains of their beloved, that is Raila Amolo Odinga, the party leader of ODM, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, a towering figure of Kenya's politics, and indeed a pioneer of Kenya's democratic space. These are his supporters milling around the pavilion, seeking access to the pavilion. Will that be granted? Obviously, this is a military facility. This is a military facility, obviously. We will see whether they will be allowed access inside the pavilion. But you can see the kind of sorrow, the kind of mourning, the kind of confusion that has been brought by the death of Mzee Raila Odinga. And it's been a quite sad morning. That's just some of the scenes you're seeing here. The kind of mourning, confusion, and pandemonium. And the story of their links to the Honorable Raila Odinga, just told by the kind of mourning, the kind of pandemonium you're seeing right here. This is the story of the Raila Odinga they knew. This is the kind of mourning that you mourn when you're mourning a hero, a man you knew for so long, and a man they supported for so long. Meanwhile, access to the pavilion remains restricted to members of the public up until probably when the military feels whether they will be able to allow them inside or not. But that's the situation here, right here at the presidential pavilion, the entrance of a presidential pavilion at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. They're expecting the plane to land anytime between 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. this morning, after which the body will be taken to the Lee Funeral Home. And after that, from 12 p.m., the rites of moving the body from the Lee Funeral Home to Parliament buildings for public viewing. Remember yesterday, the Deputy President, the co-chair of the funeral committee, announced a very tight program and revealed the wishes of the Honorable Raila Odinga to be buried within 72 hours. And that means then every program, every bit of a program is being stretched, but of course tightly so, to ensure that it accommodates all the interest of a community, the interest of a church, and the interest of a family, as well as the Honorable Raila Odinga. I'm sure you can see the access of it inside, and that is inside the presidential pavilion. The KDF band, the Kenya Defence Forces itself, lining up to receive the remains of the Honorable Raila Odinga. The final rites for the Honorable Raila Odinga, Kenya's true son, is coming back home for one last time as we bid goodbye to the former Prime Minister. The KDF band will be the ones belting the tunes, of course, the national anthem, the East African anthem, all in honor of the Honorable Raila Odinga and in the wishes of the government of the Republic of Kenya to grant him the rights of a state funeral. It's a 4-day program. It is going to be very tight and in accordance with the wishes of the former Premier. So what you continue to see are pictures of the supporters and mourners of the former Premier coming, or rather making their way to the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, the presidential pavilion here at the JKIA. In a few minutes, we expect President William Ruto to make his way here, because he will be leading the rest of the Republic in receiving the remains of the Honorable Raila Odinga in the Kenyan soil. And this is one of the biggest, one of the biggest events, obviously, to happen in the soil of the Republic of Kenya. How many people really have been accorded this honor of a state funeral? Not so many in the Republic of Kenya. And Raila Odinga makes history as a person who is being accorded this right. Strategically, I mean, Raila Odinga has made history all his life and has left landmarks in terms of how he has lived his life after taking over the opposition reins from his father. And he's even, you would say, broken even the record of Mzee Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And look at how he breaks history even in terms of how he's been bid goodbye. This is the shortest ceremony we've ever had in terms of funeral rites for a person who's been accorded a state funeral. And secondly, we are burying this legend on a Sunday. That never happens. That has never happened before. And here we are bidding goodbye to one of Kenya's biggest icon, to one of Kenya's sons, and that is the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. I want to hand you back to Broadcasting House. We'll be coming here shortly again, of course, as we expect the arrival of His Excellency the President, who is leading the government delegation and other leaders in receiving the remains of the former Prime Minister. But just like I've told you, it is about... at this point, I think the ODM party is issuing a statement at the Aja Hotel along Mombasa Road. They said it's a major announcement. We don't know what it is, but of course we will be able to tell you in the course of the day. And after that, they will come to the airport to join His Excellency the President in receiving the remains of His Excellency the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Between 8:30 to about 9:30, that is the expected time of arrival for the remains of a Honorable Raila Odinga. Of course, accompanied by a very big delegation of senior government officials. We have the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary in Tao, the Leader of Majority. We have about there are 4 Cabinet Secretaries in the delegation. That is Hassan Ali Joho of Mining. We also have William Kabogo of ICT. We also have the Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen of Interior. And indeed, we also have Upio Wandai of Energy. We have a host of PSS and also senior ODM officials led by the Secretary General Edwin Sifuna in that lineup. So definitely it's going to be a big lineup that really escorts Mzee Baba, Won Nyalego, Won Fidel back to the country, back to his country of origin, back to his original soil for one last time. Back to you in studio.
Very much, John Jacob Kiria, for that particular update on the status report, what is happening at JKIA. He is live from the presidential pavilion there at the JKIA. Among mourners and supporters of the late Raila Amolo Odinga, they are still baying for access. That is a military facility. We'll wait to see if indeed the military is going to allow the supporters and mourners who are already on ground to actually get there. And also, John Jacob Kiria is not alone at that particular location. He's also assisted by John Kahiro. Let's now hear the status report from John Kahiro before we get back to studio. Good morning, Kahiro. How are you, and what is the status report on your end?
Right, thank you so much, Ray, and your team there back in studio. We're coming to you live, loud and clear at the entrance of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, that is off the Mombasa Road, on this second day of mourning a father to many, a political endgamer, and most importantly, a father to democracy. That is the former Prime Minister, the late Raila Amolo Odinga. And remember yesterday, after President William Ruto confirmed the passing of the former Premier Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, close associates of Raila Odinga, and of course other political leaders and his family members flew to India. Seamless repatriation of the remains of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga back at home. Well, and immediately after later on, that delegation flanking the remains of former Prime Minister will be in a position to land here at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport en route to the funeral home up to around midday, when that particular body will be transferred to the Parliament buildings to give Kenyans a chance to give Baba Raila Amolo Odinga the final salute. At this particular stretch, Kenyans have get a chance to wave goodbye to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and of course we'll be coming to you live to just ensure that you give a chance and for being in a position to come back to ring.
Well, that is John Kahiro there, having quite a hard time, just maneuvering by giving us a status report on what is happening at the entrance of the JKIA there, as Raila's supporters and those who are mourning him actually make their way to the airport. And also from John Jacob Kiria earlier, he confirmed that the reports that we had earlier, that the flight was expected at around 8. Well, now the time is between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. and after which it's going to get to the presidential pavilion, and then the hearse is already ready there, after which the KDF casket carrier is already in position. The question is, will the military allow members of the public mourners and supporters to gain access to the presidential pavilion. We'll be keeping tabs on that. So John Kahiro, as well as John Jacob Kuria, are on ground. What you're seeing on your screens there is members of public who are mourning the fallen Raila Odinga. To many, he has been a political figure, but to some, he was a member of their family, someone who's walked that particular journey with them. So we'll continue keeping tabs as emotions run high across the country, from family, government officials, regional heads, as well as international heads who are coming in and just eulogizing Raila Odinga. We'll continue keeping tabs on that. We have the rundown there from JKIA. We're expecting the hearse to move to the Lee Funeral Home, where we're going to be joined by Timothy Kipnusu. But before we get there, we also understand that the ODM, that is the Orange Democratic Movement, is holding a press conference at the Argyle Hotel around Mombasa Road, Nairobi. Who are going to be participating or expected are top ODM leadership, and this is just the party to just give its view on the funeral plans of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. This particular plans, burial plans, or rather funeral plans there, is going to be an intricate balance between the wishes of the late Raila Odinga, who, as per his will right now, indicates that he said that he'd want to be buried within 72 hours. We're going to be, or rather, we're going to likely to see an intricate balance between the wishes of the country, the community, the church, the family, and the man himself. We have a rundown. We'll wait to see, as John Jacob Kuria said, a burial on Sunday. But yeah, a deviation from the norm, but that is Raila Odinga. Now over to you, Abdiaziz Hashim, and your panel. To you.
Thank you so much, Regina. And of course, that is a status update from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And as I assure you, not only what you're witnessing within the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport with those mourners and supporters, even Cairo has shown you the status update of outside JKIA, especially on its main entrance, how people have congregated there. That particular hearse, when given that the military is overseeing this particular process, will be going slowly all the way from Mombasa Road to the Lee Funeral Home, where it's expected to be preserved at the end of the day before being taken to the Augusta House, that is the National Assembly. The main corridor, before you enter the corridors of the National Assembly side, that is where the body will be situated. And of course, those are the live images you're seeing on your screen in terms of what is happening at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Of course, emotions running high, as Ray just clearly stated that we're waiting to see if the military will allow those supporters and mourners to enter the presidential pavilion, given that the head of state and the family, the first family, will be spearheading that particular venture alongside the family of the late Raila Odinga, in terms of what he meant not only to the great people of Nyanza region but to the country at large, how he has served them in various capacity, from being a prime minister as well as a member of parliament. And of course, this particular set has a member of parliament in the form of Nandi Hills member of parliament, that is Bernard Kitur. I also do have Oscar Omondi, a governance and political analyst, and Dr. Mark Matuga, a senior political analyst, will be joining us in a few. On key matter to note is that the ODM will be giving a presser, and of course led by NEC, the National Executive Council, especially the committee will be there, including the heads of that particular party, including Homa Bay Governor, that is Gladys Wanga, and other leaders, given that some of the deputy of the party leaders have gone outside the country to India to collect the remains of the ODM leader Raila Odinga and bring him back to the country. And of course, given that you've heard even John Jacob Kuria talking about in terms of how we used to receive Raila Odinga when he came back to the country, normally you will see people flocking to JKIA. There is no difference here, given that the only difference here is that he's no longer alive. People will continue supporting what he stood for as a human rights defender. You have seen how he fought for the country's democracy since the times of Moi, as well as during Kibaki's reign, Uhuru Kenyatta's reign, and even the current president, that is President William Ruto. When, of course, we received this particular story yesterday, we were currently in Kitui, where President William Ruto was expected to start his Ukambani region tour, especially in Mwingi East, to launch some of the various various projects that the president had planned ahead of the Mashujaa Day celebrations. And of course, the scenes there, you wouldn't expect any difference, was that the people of Ukambani were mourning following that particular news as and when it was broken to them by the various government officials who were attending that particular session. And of course, the members of parliament from that particular area ensured there was a moment of silence for the great leader. And of course, talking about how he worked not only with the various administrations that he aided, but the political leaders, including the Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who hails from that particular region, who has supported the ODM leader 3 times in his presidential ambitions. And of course, you do know he attempted 5 times. And people are talking about his resilience in terms of not giving up that particular venture, even if he lost in those particular ventures. And you do remember what he did in 2017 after he brought a petition before the Supreme Court of judges, of course, spearheaded back then by David Maraga. What you're seeing on the screen are those live images of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. As I told you, when you're accorded a state funeral, it is normally accorded to former heads of state, but given the man and what this particular person did for our country, he has been accorded a state funeral. And of course, given that Regina told you a little bit earlier on, they are keeping a balance between the wishes of the ODM leader Raila Odinga, the family, and what the state honors required in terms of a state burial. As I told you, he will be taken to Parliament, and as usual, the public will be given an opportunity to view the body of the former ODM leader Raila Odinga. And I want to toss it now to Mike Mwigui. Mike, if you can hear me, you've just seen the scenes there at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And also, okay, I'll get to Mike, but let me get the views of members of parliament here as well as governance experts. Mheshimiwa, let me start with you by telling us